I still remember the exact moment everything shifted, like a line had been crossed that I could never uncross. I was sitting on our couch after a long workday, scrolling through my phone when I saw a public post with my wife's name tagged in it. It wasn't even meant for me, but it hit me like a punch. She had written, "Wish my husband looked like Jason Momoa," followed by laughing emojis and hard eyes. My stomach dropped instantly. I kept staring at it, hoping I had misunderstood the context, but I hadn't. That was the beginning of everything falling apart. We had been married for 6 years. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Just a normal life in a small rented house in a quiet neighborhood. I worked as an IT technician. She worked in marketing for a local firm. We weren't rich, but we were stable. At least, that's what I believed. We had shared routines. Morning tea together, evening TV shows, weekend grocery trips. I thought we were solid. I used to come home thinking she was my safe place. But looking back, I realize I had mistaken routine for emotional connection, and comfort for loyalty. My wife, Alina, was always active on social media. She liked attention, likes, comments. Nothing unusual in today's world. I never questioned it before. She followed fitness pages, celebrity fan accounts, and lifestyle influencers. Jason Momoa was one of those names she often joked about. "That's the kind of man women dream of," she once said while we were watching a movie. I laughed it off at the time. I didn't think admiration could slowly turn into comparison. But apparently, I was wrong about that too. Lately, I had noticed small changes. She was more distant, always on her phone, smiling at messages she quickly hid when I walked in. I asked her once, "Everything okay? You seem distracted lately." She just shrugged and said, "Work stress." I wanted to believe her, so I did. But something about her tone didn't feel right anymore. It wasn't just stress. It felt like she was somewhere else mentally, emotionally. I just didn't know yet that I wasn't part of that somewhere else anymore. The post stayed in my head all night. The next morning, I checked it again. It had gained likes and comments. Some of her friends laughed it off. Others added fire emojis like it was harmless fun. But to me, it didn't feel harmless. It felt like humiliation wrapped in humor. One comment even said, "Girl, same face with tears of joy." That made it worse. I kept thinking, did she really see me like that? Not attractive enough? Not enough in general. I closed my phone, but I couldn't close my thoughts. When she woke up, I tried to act normal. I made breakfast and slid her plate across the table. "I saw your post," I said quietly. She paused mid-bite. "Which one?" she asked, pretending innocence. I looked straight at her. "The one about Jason Momoa." For a second, she froze. Then she laughed lightly. "Oh, that? It was just a joke. Everyone does those posts." But her eyes didn't meet mine. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a joke. There was something she didn't want to explain. That day at work, I couldn't focus. During lunch break, I went back to her profile and started scrolling deeper. That's when I noticed something strange. A few posts ago, she had been interacting a lot with a guy from her office. Same department. His comments were always playful, sometimes borderline flirty. "You're too funny," he wrote once. She replied with laughing emojis and, "You wish." It wasn't proof of anything solid, but it didn't feel innocent either. It felt like a door I hadn't known existed had been slightly opened. By evening, I noticed she was texting more than usual again. I asked casually, "Who's keeping you so busy lately?" She quickly locked her screen and said, "Just work group chat." But her voice tightened. Later that night, I heard her phone vibrate repeatedly while she was in the shower. I didn't check it then, but my mind already started filling gaps I didn't want to imagine. Trust doesn't just break in one moment. It starts cracking quietly, until suddenly you realize it's been broken for a while. 2 days later, I finally asked her directly, "Are you comparing me to someone else?" She frowned. "What are you talking about?" I showed her the post. The room went silent. She sighed heavily and said, "You're overthinking this. It was just a joke with friends." But I didn't stop. "Do you think I'm not enough?" I asked. That question hung between us. She hesitated, then said something I didn't expect.
I just wish things felt more exciting sometimes.
That was the first real crack in her defense.
I sat down slowly, trying to process her words.
Exciting,
I repeated.
So I'm boring now? She shook her head quickly. That's not what I meant. But it was too late. Something had already shifted in me.
She continued,
It's just, you're always tired, always working. I see other couples traveling, doing things. I replied, and instead of talking to me about it, you post comparisons online? She stayed silent. That silence said more than anything she could have admitted out loud. 2 days later, I found something that changed everything. Her messages with that coworker weren't just casual anymore. There were deleted texts, late-night conversations, and one line that stuck with me, "Wish my life felt like yours." I confronted her again. This time, she didn't deny everything.
She just said, "Nothing happened physically."
I swear. But emotional lines had clearly been crossed. That was the twist I wasn't ready for. There didn't need to be physical betrayal for it to still feel like betrayal. That night, I didn't sleep.
I sat in the kitchen alone, replaying every moment of the past months.
The distance, the phone habits, the jokes that weren't jokes anymore.
In the morning I told her, "I need space."
She looked shocked.
"You're leaving?" she asked. I replied, "No.
I'm stepping back so I can think clearly." She didn't argue. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to defend anymore. For the first time, the power in our relationship wasn't shared. It was gone. Over the next weeks, we lived like strangers in the same house. Minimal conversation, separate routines, silent dinners. I focused on work and stayed out longer just to avoid the tension. She tried a few times to talk normally, but it felt forced.
One evening, she said quietly, "I didn't mean to hurt you."
I nodded but didn't respond. Because intent didn't erase impact. Trust, once fractured, doesn't rebuild just because someone apologizes. It needs consistency, and right now, there was none left to give. Eventually, I moved into a small apartment near my office. She didn't stop me. There was no dramatic goodbye, no shouting match. Just a quiet acceptance that something had ended long before we admitted it. Friends later told me she stopped posting for a while. I heard she also distanced herself from that coworker after rumors spread at work. Life had started correcting itself in quiet ways, but it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was I had finally chosen peace over confusion. Looking back, it wasn't just one post that broke us, it was everything underneath it that I had ignored for too long. Words online can look harmless, but they often reveal truths people aren't saying out loud. I learned that love doesn't survive comparison, and silence eventually speaks louder than excuses. The final truth I carry is simple. If someone starts wishing for a different version of you, they've already stopped appreciating the one standing in front of them.